Greetings, and welcome to Arcana Analysis, where we invite you into the Velvet Room to unlock the secrets of the Arcanum and the bonds they encompass. On this episode of Arcana Analysis, we'll be seeking out the Hermit Arcana. The Hermit is the 9th major arcana, following justice and preceding fortune. The card often depicts a wizened figure standing alone in a dark, remote location, and for good reason. The core of the Hermit is knowledge gained through reclusion. One has pulled themselves away from society in order to engage in deep soul-searching. Through extended contemplation, they reach the wisdom needed to help themselves and others. Within a tarot reading, the appearance of the Hermit is a signal to look inward for answers. There's much knowledge in the world, but some answers can only be reached through introspection. Don't be too hasty. You must come to terms with the truth inside you, then apply that answer to the problems you find yourself facing. The Hermit is an enlightened figure, and following in their footsteps will lead to the best outcome. Within the Persona series, the Hermit finds its home with similarly sequestered individuals. The characters under this arcana are very introverted, sometimes separate from society completely, but at the very least detached from others. Though shy, reserved, and quite often awkward, Hermits carry with them the wisdom intrinsic to the original card. They excel in certain skills, and tend to be recognized thusly for it. They may not always be forthcoming with their talents, but they are undeniably knowledgeable individuals. Personas of the Hermit Arcana tend to excel in status effects, alluding to the less direct nature of their users and the wisdom of the original card. When properly utilized, a persona of the Hermit can easily turn the tide of a battle, providing backup or buffs as needed. These personas tend to be reclusive and secretive figures, or those that operate out of sight.
The first bearer of the Hermit Arcana in Persona 3 is Isako Tori Yumi, better known by her online handle as Maya. In reality, she is a school teacher at Gekkoukan High, but during her free time she enjoys playing online games. Through her interactions with the protagonist, we can see that Tori Yumi is a very laid-back individual who can be rather immature, judgmental, and informal at times. In her social link, Tori Yumi spends her time with the protagonist mainly venting her frustrations, using the anonymity of the online game to avoid any guilt she may feel. She explains that despite it being her dream job, she's grown quite bored of teaching, and her co-workers only add to her dismay. She is often lambasted by her mother for not marrying a man yet, and typically spends her evenings drinking, which has resulted in her being heckled by strangers in the past. One by one, each of these secrets is revealed to the protagonist in order for Tori Yumi to vent her frustrations. Then, when the admins of the game announce that they intend on shutting down the servers, Tori Yumi gets up in arms and plans on sending her chat logs with the protagonist in an attempt to persuade the admins into keeping the servers running. It is then that Tori Yumi realizes how much complaining she'd done, and how rude some of the things she'd said were. She apologizes to the protagonist and resolves to become less of a bitter person, not talking poorly about people behind their backs. As a hermit, Tori Yumi's reclusion and proclivity towards online games lends itself well to her arcana. Her role as a teacher also plays into this, as she is a textbook educator. But it is through her reclusion and time spent playing this online game that Tori Yumi receives much more valuable knowledge, an understanding that she must be more considerate of others moving forward. Because of the one-sided nature of their conversations, this social link is more an example of a personal journey than anything else. A desperate attempt to relieve herself of tension from work quickly became a method of soul-searching, which provided her with newfound wisdom and resolve.
Though not a social link himself, Jin Shirato bears the Hermit Arcana through his persona Morose. Jin is a member of Strega, a former test subject of the Kirijo Foundation, who was implanted with an artificial persona at the cost of much of his lifespan. Prior to the formation of Strega, Jin was locked away from society and denied personhood. After escaping the Kirijo group, Jin chooses to reject humanity. Instead, he follows the only beacon of light he knows, Takaya, and the apocalyptic beliefs he preaches. Jin is seen as an aggressive and arrogant individual, but neither of these traits cloud his better judgment. He is able to act as a voice of rationality to the more unhinged Takaya, keeping him from more extreme and destructive actions throughout the story. Common sense is far from his only boon, though. Jin is the creator and administrator of the Revenge Request website, and it is confirmed by Akihiko and Fuka that he is infamous on the internet as a skilled hacker. Jin's prowess with technology is reflected in his fighting style as well. He tosses explosives at seas, and his persona takes the shape of a robotic figure with a satellite dish for a head. The body of Morose is engraved with numbers and encircled by a holographic ticker display. Within Greek mythology, Morose is the embodiment of impending doom and a child of Nyx, fitting traits for Jin's position as a coveter of Nyx's awakening and the subsequent end of all life on Earth. As a forebearer of doom, Morose hints at Jin's fate. After facing defeat, Jin ultimately kills himself via explosion. He is a truly antagonistic twisting of the Hermit, one who uses his knowledge to harm others rather than helping them.
The final bearer of the Hermit Arcana in Persona 3 is Sai Ori Hasegawa, who debuted in Persona 3 Portable. She is a student at Gekkoukan High School and is a member of either the library or health committee, depending on which the player joins. On the surface, Hasegawa is an incredibly friendly and kind girl, though a bit reserved at times. The truth behind her personality is another matter entirely, though. Within her social link, Hasegawa is shown to be quite a selfless individual, never refusing the chance to help one of her peers. Because of her reluctance to say no, she has garnered quite the reputation around the school for being a pushover, someone who other students can take advantage of. She'll lend other students her notes and never get them back, but refuses to confront anyone about it. When asked on a date by a person in a relationship, she is forced to take the blame and doesn't get the chance to speak up for herself. All of this reaches a boil when Hasegawa is asked to take part in a quick photo shoot for a magazine article, one that accuses her and other students of Gekkoukan High of being reckless party animals. After the article is released, she is suspended from school and treated as an outcast by all the other students, save for the protagonist. Her parents even arrange for her to transfer to a private school as punishment, and Hasegawa still believes it's for the best. It's only through the encouragement of the protagonist that Hasegawa gains the courage to stand up for herself, hijacking the school's announcements to clear her name. While there are still many people who view her as an outcast, by the end of the link, Hasegawa has found a new sense of self-respect and a desire to stand up for herself and her feelings. From this link, we can see that Hasegawa is both a social recluse and an emotional one as well. While the former is not something she actively sought out, in the desperate pursuit of making friends, she actively disregarded her own feelings to seem more likable. Because she continued to ignore what she was doing, the problems only continued to build up until she was a complete outcast. Through the aid of the protagonist, Hasegawa looks inward and reflects on her feelings, allowing her to become enlightened in her own way. Though she is still set to leave for private school at the end of the link, Hasegawa can truly smile knowing she has the resolve to start anew and be true to herself, an emotional wisdom befitting of her arcana.
The Hermit Arcana in Persona 4 is not held by a person, but a fox instead. Well smarter than the average bear and able to enter the TV world, this creature is still just a fox. It does not speak or go through much of a character arc. Instead, the fox sends the protagonist on a series of side quests by bringing him Emma plaques that have been left at Inaba's local shrine. The completion of these quests results in donations being given to the shrine, delighting the fox. As an animal, the fox is inherently separated from human society. It exists removed, but through its social link with the player, it still makes an impact on the lives within the town. This animal is also smart enough to understand the meanings of the wishes written on the Emmas and recognizes that the protagonist can help, playing into the wisdom of the hermit. While the fox itself has little lore, its keen insight, apparent intelligence, and location at a shrine may hint to it having a connection to Inari Okami, one of the more prominent gods in the Shinto pantheon. Inari Okami is a god of success, prosperity, and of course, foxes. Alternatively, Persona 4's Hermit could be a nod to kitsune folklore. While shape-shifting kitsune are often characterized as tricksters, many stories and myths portrayed foxes as holding vast medical knowledge. This knowledge they would use to help other characters within the legends. At the end of the fox's social link, the Tatsuhime Shrine receives an upgrade. The wealth of donations have been used to plate the shrine in gold, a testament not only to the faith that the townsfolk once again have in the shrine, but also to the fox's prudent action and wisdom.
Within Persona 5, the Hermit Arcana is held by Futaba Sakura, adoptive daughter of Sojiro Sakura, and a member of the Phantom Thieves. Due to her proclivity towards technology, Futaba has taken the name Oracle within the metaverse, and uses her prowess to support her fellow thieves. Though, at the beginning of the game, she is socially anxious, bordering on agoraphobic, Futaba quickly becomes one of the most verbal and outgoing members of the Phantom Thieves, though she can often come across as rather childish. Futaba's depression at the beginning of the game is brought about by a deep-rooted trauma from her childhood, having witnessed her mother, Wakaba Ishiki, committing suicide, and was told for quite some time after the fact that she was to blame. Because of the heavy weight on her shoulders, Futaba withdrew from society, spending her time online instead of in the real world. In this time of reclusion, she learned a great deal about hacking, making a name for herself online as the infamous Medjed. However, when the Medjed name is appropriated and used to target the Phantom Thieves, Futaba decides to proposition them. In exchange for dealing with these impersonators, the thieves must steal Futaba's heart. After familiarizing themselves with Futaba and her condition, the thieves head into her palace, which takes the form of a giant, cybernetic pyramid. This mirrors Futaba's real-world living situation, a tomb she's built for herself out of technology. Her perceived guilt over her mother's death has also created a malicious cognition of her mom, in the form of a giant sphinx. It isn't until Futaba enters her own palace that things take a turn for the better. She encounters her own shadow, who urges Futaba to re-examine the circumstances of her mother's death. This trip down memory lane proves that Wakaba's death was unnatural, and that Futaba is not to blame. This new information causes Futaba to awaken her persona, Necronomicon, which allows her to directly support the thieves in taking down the Sphinx. After her change of heart, Futaba finally comes out of her shell and starts interacting with the protagonist more and more. She also asks to join the thieves so that she can track down the true culprit responsible for her mother's death. Within her confidant, Futaba confronts the protagonist about readjusting to the outside world. Having spent years isolated from her peers, she decides to create a promise list of tasks she wants to accomplish before reintroducing herself to society. One by one, Futaba manages to complete each task on the list, spending time in crowded places, interacting with strangers her age, etc. Along the way, Futaba is reminded of an old promise list she made with her mother when she was just a kid, one that involved getting along with a girl named Kana. Though she had been bullied quite a bit in her youth, Futaba did have one friend for a time, a young woman named Kana. However, after discovering that Kana's parents were abusing her, the two girls fell out of touch. With her newfound powers as a phantom thief, Futaba resolves to reunite with Kana and change her parents' hearts, freeing her from this abusive household. The plan goes off without a hitch, and the two girls reconnect, exchanging emails and making plans to go to high school. After completing her promise list and saving Kana, Futaba can safely say that she has gained the strength and independence necessary to join the real world again, allowing her persona to evolve into Prometheus. Futaba's initial persona, Necronomicon, is depicted as a flying saucer coated in odd scripture and symbols, not unlike the hieroglyphics present in her palace. Seeing as this persona is a vehicle, Futaba can hide away inside the ship to support her fellow thieves. This is quite reminiscent of her life as a shut-in, sequestered with only her technology by her side, only this time she's using her technological prowess to help her friends. In fiction, the Necronomicon is a tome containing insights about the cosmic beings that control the Earth. Seeing as the root of Futaba's awakening is discovering the truth about her mother's death, this choice of persona is quite fitting. When her persona evolves into Prometheus, it becomes a large, multicolored sphere with a smiley face drawn on it, in a pattern reminiscent of a circuit board. Futaba still hides away inside this sphere, but the form now suggests that she feels less alienated from her peers, and more socially capable. In myth, Prometheus was a titan who, along with his brother, was tasked with populating the earth. Prometheus created mankind and gave them the fire from Mount Olympus, and knowledge about how to trick the gods. Because of this, he was chained to a rock and tortured until he was inevitably freed by Heracles. This resembles how Futaba was rescued from solitude by the Phantom Thieves, and how Futaba would go on to save Kana from her abuse. Futaba's reclusive lifestyle lends itself well to the Hermit Arcana, but it is through her self-reflection and wisdom gained through said introspection that Futaba truly shines as a hermit. Time and time again, she managed to overcome her guilt and trauma to look inward and better understand herself and the world around her.
That concludes our analysis of the Hermit Arcana. The characters chosen by the Hermit are not only practically intelligent, but they are also those who work to earn their wisdom. Many must overcome harsh challenges, but through perseverance they hone their craft. Even with the Hermit's proclivity towards reclusion, no man is an island, and they may need someone to support them. Should someone come to their aid, they make their loyalty and gratitude known through the use of their skills. We hope that you've enjoyed your stay with us in the Velvet Room, and we look forward to seeing you again. Until then, we bid you adieu.